Hey everyone, and welcome to another review. Now this video is going to be a bit more low effort as I didn't really feel like writing a script and researching the whole backstory segments, so this one will be pretty much unscripted then. I was actually planning on releasing another video. I'm still in the midst of finishing that script, but yeah, well, why not do this one first then? So the model I will review is a Minichamps 1/18 Resin model. And as you can see from its orange papaya box, it's a McLaren car this time. The box unfortunately is pretty messed up, as you can see. I actually contacted Minichamps to ask for a replacement, so fingers crossed it'll still come. I was a bit afraid that the Model 2 would be damaged, as I could hear the dreaded rattling sound, but luckily the model is okay. I of course already opened it up to check the contents. Anyway, let's start the review with the box, and it's the same style box Minichamps uses for their Resin 1/18 F1 models. On the top here is a McLaren logo and a Minichamps one. On the side here it's mentioned it's the MCL60 with both drivers' initials on it too, so this box can be used for both Norris or Piastri models. The other side then is exactly the same. And the bottom part is the usual licensing info and model barcode. On this side flap here is again the McLaren logo and the MCL60 denomination. And on the other side it says which model this is on this sticker. So the Monaco 2023 version as driven by Lando Norris. It's also limited to 180 pieces only, as you can see. This sticker then is pretty clever too, I think, so Minichamps can use the same box for all versions of the MCL60, and there were quite a few of those actually. So let's now unbox the model then. And as usual it is set in this styrofoam clamshell box. Here you can see the rattling thing was actually just the silica packet in the plastic holders, so the model is indeed intact despite the pretty substantial damage on the box. The car itself then looks pretty awesome, and this is of course the Triple Crown tribute livery celebrating McLaren's wins in Monaco, Le Mans and the Indy 500. I must admit I was not really a fan of that livery when it came out, but seeing it here in model form in front of me, I kinda have to change my mind. This model looks really good, and this special livery definitely makes it even more special, I have to say. I also think the standard livery of the MCL60 was pretty horrible. And I'm also not really a fan of the Silverstone Chrome liveries, so yeah, I think this one might be the best special version there is of this car. The base Minichamps uses on this model is the same that they have on all their more recent releases. And this chrome plaque then has changed a bit too, with Minichamps using a different style typography for it. So at first sight this model car looks pretty awesome with the special livery. I also really like these intermediate tires, it changes it up a bit from the usual slick shot models. So let's now focus on some of the details, and I'll start with the areas that I think could be improved. The biggest negative on this model in my eyes is the way the front wing is modeled. Minichamps still doesn't cut out the elements of the wing, which is a shame. Especially the part where these slits normally spill over into the bottom of the end plates is not too good. Considering rival brand Spark does cut out the wing flaps on their models, then why can't you, Minichamps? The wheel bras too then are not cut out either, but that is also the case on the Spark models though. Another thing that bothers me is the airbox intake, which is way too shallow. It would look so much better if the hole was somewhat deeper. And maybe it is because it has this split configuration, I don't really know. In the cockpit then the visor of the helmet is not very good either. I will give it to Minichamps that it looks much better than the brownish visor they used to use, but it's still not quite there yet. Here they try to replicate the iridescent tint on it, but I mean, this is just a flat shiny purple foil. On my Model 2 the Dayglow red has seeped through a bit into the white parts. I don't know if this is just on mine though. The visor strip then on the helmet too is wrong. This DP World sponsor sticker should be a Dell Technologies one. Also the OKX decal is a bit misaligned. It should be a bit lower down the helmet, just above the eye port. The belt detail then is also a bit disappointing with just decals instead of real 3D belts with photo etched parts like they used to have on these resin models. Another minor point then are all of these rivet holes in the bodywork. Well, don't get me wrong, they're actually pretty nice, but they would look so much better if they would have been colored in. And I've done this on my Mick Schumacher Haas model, and it makes the panel lines pop out a bit more. Onto the floor then, and this part here is not cut out, as you can see, there's just a small opening here. I know cutting it out would be quite tricky for this element and make it very fragile, as it only has these small attachment points, but still, it's a shame it's not cut out more. The finishing too of some of the decals then on my model is not top notch. The discoloration on the helmet I already mentioned, but here too the carbon decal here near the floor has been damaged and seems to have been colored over to cover it up. And here too a small piece is missing from the carbon decal. It's not much, but it's still quite visible though. Another thing I don't really like is the carbon black grille here on the side of the car. This is of course not a Minichamps error, but I think it would have looked so much nicer if it was white, I'm just saying. The rear end of the car then is also a bit plain. Some cars have these small strengthening rods connecting the floor to the crash structure, but here it's all a bit empty. And in fact, I looked at some pictures from that weekend, and there does indeed seem to be these small metallic rods missing on the model. The hole in the exhaust then is not deep enough, I think, and the same can be said for these engine cover exit holes. Also, a bit of discoloration on the exhaust pipe would make it so much more realistic, I think. Finally then, the inside of the rear wing end plates are sadly not textured. There's no carbon fiber detailing here, it's just plain black plastic. The same is also true for the other side of these lower beam wings, the crash structure attenuator as well, and the underside and side skirts of the diffuser. Shame also the rear light LEDs are missing on the back of the end plates too. So that was quite a list, but I actually think this is a pretty good model car. These negative parts I mentioned are actually not all too bad, I just wanted to be thorough as usual. On the positive side then, I really love the overall look of the model. As I said, I wasn't a big fan of the Triple Crown livery, but in model form I really dig it. The black part on the front is of course a nod to the McLaren F1 GTR, the 1995 Le Mans winner. The black is only limited to the top of the nose actually, as the rest is just carbon fiber, as is the trend nowadays. I really like this small green dot they copied from the Le Mans car here next to the car number. The white middle part then with these chevrons then refers to the Marlboro McLaren cars. And the orange on the back then is a reference to the All Papaya 1974 M16C-D Indy 500 winner of Johnny Rutherford. Another thing I really like on this model are the wheels. The intermediate compound is very nicely replicated and the thread of the tires looks really good. The tire sidewalls then do lack a bit of markings, extra markings though, but these textured lines on them is a really great detail Minichamps adds nowadays. The markings I'll probably add myself by hand later on. In any case, they always forget to add the barcodes too, so I might as well do the whole shebang. The Google Chrome colored rings on the wheel discs give it a bit more depth, and the wheel nut detail is also very good on this model with different colors also on each side, so blue on the left and gold on the right. The front wing then, aside from the missing cuts, does kinda look good though, with all of these small metallic elements, and although they are just plastic and not photo etched parts, they still look good I think. This wing flap adjuster looks very detailed as well, and the sensors on the inner side of the end plates are very nice too, colored in this metallic silver. I also really like the small ballast piece in the center section of the wing, with all of these small rivets in it. The detail on the bottom of the wheel brows then is also quite impressive, although it's not very visible. The suspension then is really great too, with the carbon fiber detailing in it. And look how the upper wishbones connect to the very top of the tub and almost spills over it. Very nice. The pitot tube and antennas then look detailed. The 360 camera here could have been a bit better with a small piece on top, as some other manufacturers actually do. The intakes of the side pods then are quite interesting and look good with that carbon outline around it. The mirrors then look great too, and these small turning vanes underneath is a nice little detail. Underneath the expressive undercut, the floor turning vanes are quite good as well, I think. I also really like this bulge in the floor, probably hiding the side crash structures. The rest of the floor then is fine with that cut in it, as I already mentioned, and these long metallic strengthening rods connecting the floor edge to the chassis is also a very nice detail. The halo then is pretty good and blends in seamlessly into the shape of the cockpit sides. The helmet of the figurine then is quite good shape-wise. It really looks like the Bell HP77 helmet Lando uses. The special design is also nicely done with the Dayglow red and white combination, reminiscent a bit of Niki Lauda's McLaren helmet, also because of that big L, of course. These two black bars then beside the cockpit look a bit out of place, but they are actually screens on the real car, looping several sponsors on it. And since this part of the car is usually black, it blends in better normally, but yeah, it's still pretty cool. It's featured on this model, I think. The belts then I already mentioned, but this time Minichamps have actually done something interesting here. So the belts themselves are just 2D decals, but the central locking mechanism is a 3D piece, as you can see, which is, I think, a good compromise if you're not going to make real separate belts. The steering wheel then is modeled after the rear wheel used in the MCL60. It's not massively detailed though, but it looks fine, I think. The small serrated edged cockpit window is really good then. And the small ring behind the driver's headrest is another good mini detail. The shape of the side pods then is also very nice, with these sort of secondary lines starting further down the pod, copied from Red Bull of course. I also really like this scalloped top of the side pods, which was pioneered by Ferrari on their F175 car. The back of the side pods then really slope down and blend into the floor, which in turn then leaves these pronounced cooling tunnels towards the rear of the car and exposes the rear suspension parts as well. The rear wing then is very good, with that big slit in between the main plane and the upper flap. I also like these small connectors pieces in between. The DRS mechanism then looks good with the carbon texture on it, and the little kiwi bird logo referring to the founders Bruce McLaren's origins. These FIA mandated measuring dots then is a nice addition to the model. The lower beam wings then look as if they're cut out, but in fact it's only cut where the two elements separate. And it's again, I think, a good compromise to make them like this, as it still looks like there is a very small slit in between. Another big plus I noticed is the addition of the Views brand decals. Minichamps are the only ones to have them factory fitted to the model, as the Spark or Solido versions will have blank spaces. So to conclude then, I'd say this is a very good model car by Minichamps, and this coming from someone who didn't like the car in the first place. Minichamps convinced me though this car looks really cool. They have done a good job on it, and this special Triple Crown version really stands out. Detail wise, I think they also found a very good compromise for the most complicated areas. If only they would finally cut out the front wing elements, this would be an absolute belter. I hope Minichamps also keeps on fine-tuning these visor decals and maybe go back to the 3D belts with photo etch parts. So now, is it for everyone? Well, probably not. But of all the versions of the MCL60, I'm pretty sure this is the most special one. And now I would like to ask you, what is your favorite MCL60 car? Is it the Silverstone Chrome one or the blackened out late season version? Let me know in the comments. So thanks a lot for watching this review. Please check out the other videos on the channel as well, like this one of Lewis Hamilton's first title winner, the 2008 McLaren MP4 23. Like, comment and subscribe, and see you again in the next one.